Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining our Fireside Chat this month, when we are going to be featuring our Guardian campaign for Guardian Month for the month of May. My name is Lisa Levinson. I'm Campaigns Director for In Defense of Animals, and it's my pleasure to welcome all of you here today. I also have the honor of introducing you to some of our staff. We've got Bob with us today, Bob Price, with our Director of Development. And we have Fleur Dawes, our Director of Communications. Hi, Fleur. And we have Katie Nolan, who's our General Campaigner and who campaigns for the Guardian campaign. So thanks to our staff who've joined us. We also have visiting staff who are here. Ginger has joined us today. We're thrilled to have you. Ginger is our wild horse and burro campaigner. So we've got lots of us on board today to have fun together, to go through and look at what happens behind the scenes at IDA. And this is your glimpse at what we do in our campaigns work to really highlight and showcase all of the work that we've been doing that some of you see and others may be curious. So that's why we're doing all these, to get to know all of you a little bit better. These very informal talks that are a great opportunity to connect. So again, I'm Lisa Levinson and Campaigns Director. I'm now going to turn it over to Katie Nolan, our General Campaigner, who's going to take it from here. Thank you, Katie.
Yeah, thanks, Lisa, for the introductions. And hello, everyone. I'm Katie Nolan, as Lisa said, General Campaigner at In Defense of Animals. I'm really happy you're all here to join us. So I have recently taken on ownership of, well, not ownership, as you will hear soon, guardianship of our Guardian campaign. So if you don't already know,
but that's just me.
May is Guardian Month.
That says more.
We are celebrating the Guardian campaign. And I guess really quickly, I'll go over just a couple Zoom reminders. We've set this meeting up as a meeting so that it can be engaging and we can have a conversation together. So we'll have time where we'll invite you to share and speak up with your questions at the end. But for now, if you're able to remain on mute, that would be great. Thank you. So as I was saying, May is Guardian Month. So we're celebrating the Guardian campaign. But first, I'll start by telling you what the Guardian campaign is, if you're not already familiar with it. So this campaign is dedicated to changing the way we think and speak about animals. So, for example, the obvious one, as I kind of hinted to already, is changing the way we refer to people who care for animals as owners, shifting that to the word guardian. Also, instead of referring animals to it, the focus of the campaign is to change pronouns, so to refer to animals as he, she, or they. And the idea is shifting away from talking about animals as property or something that people own or as objects, and thinking of them more as beings who are alive, who have their own capacity to make decisions, and who are individuals and not here just to serve for the purpose of being with people. So In Defense of Animals founder, Dr. Elliot Katz, thought that this campaign was one of the most effective ways of making positive change for animals. He spent his later years dedicated to this campaign, and actually one of his final wishes was to carry on the mission of this campaign. So with that introduction, I believe Fleur has a bit more to add about the history. If you have any more, Fleur, if not, there's a video we have to share with you.
Oh yeah, thank you ever so much, Katie. And yeah, I think that was a really fantastic introduction to the Guardian campaign. Just really, our founder was so sure that this is the way that we make that seismic change for animals. We all know that animals nowadays, right now, are not in the place, they're not regarded as they should be, they are not given the status that they deserve. And unfortunately, they are treated as such. They are treated as commodities, as objects, because that is what that's how we refer to them in our language. And in fact, when we're teaching kids at school, if they refer to an animal as a he, a she, or a who, they might actually be corrected. Oh no, sorry, that's wrong, red line. They are an it. And that's how we're taught to objectify them from the very start. So yes, Dr. Elliot Katz was very, very keen on this campaign and attracted a lot of support. So we have all kinds of celebrities speaking out in public service announcements for this campaign, giving quotes of support. And we've really kind of carried that through now to bring that into a new era. We back in, I think it was in it was actually in 2000, the year 2000, at the millennium, the turn of the century, we started off with Boulder, Colorado, our Guardian Cities initiative, and we went from city to city, and we changed the language at the local level so that cities were using proper guardian language, and they were referring to guardians of people who have animal companions properly as guardians, not as owners, so that they could use that language. So, and since then we have dozens and dozens of other cities. So Boulder, Colorado was the first. Then we have West Hollywood, Berkeley, all kinds of San Francisco, big cities started taking notice of this. So I think that's one really important way that the Guardian campaign got established. But now we are moving forwards into a new era. But first, let me share a little bit of introduction about the Guardian campaign from a wonderful author and friend of Independence for Animals. It gives you an introduction to what the Guardian campaign is all about. So let me just share my screen here. So give me one moment. Can you hear the audio on this?
No,
Okay,
I cannot.
make sure I get the audio on this. 1 second.
Yeah, you need to click the little button there that says audio.
Thank you.
You might have to scroll down a ways to click it.
Got it. Bear with me. This isn't my specialty. We'll get there now. Here we go. Again, this is Pauline Montez de Oca, who is an author and is going to tell us a little bit about the campaign.
Hi, I'm Carlene and I'm a guardian. My relationship with my companion animals is really one of the most extraordinary of my life. I used to think of myself as an animal owner, and unfortunately what I didn't realize at the time was that there were limits to that relationship. It was as if there was a barrier between myself and my animal companions that was keeping them on one side and myself on the other. But when I began to think and to act like a guardian, that barrier just dissolved. Property, possessions, things, they just get neglected and thrown away as soon as an owner gets tired of them. Unfortunately, that is what's happening to millions upon millions of dogs and cats and other animals in shelters, in people's homes. When people get tired of them, they just throw them away as if they don't matter. My companion animals matter to me. They're part of my family. They're my friends. They're my teachers. So I make sure that they get walked, that they get fed, that they get the medical attention that they need, and all of the love that they want. My commitment to them, it's a commitment for life. And what do I get in return but unconditional love and affection? And in today's world, that is a huge gift. And it all begins with just one word: guardian. Each time somebody moves from an attitude of owner to guardian, the pillars of cruelty crumble just a little bit more. One day, they are just going to fall apart completely. And you can make that happen right now by changing one word, one small word. You can change their world. Animals don't have a voice, but you do. So please say no to the term owner and yes to the term guardian. Thank you.
So there we have it. I think that was beautifully put, and hopefully gives you a good introduction to what the Guardian campaign is all about. And since then, we've the guardianship of the Guardian campaign, as Katie said, has passed over to her. So maybe Katie, you'd like to tell us a little bit more about what we've been doing for the campaign recently.
Yeah, definitely. We have a really exciting update. If you haven't seen it already in our e-news or on our website. So we've had a long-standing alert for people to sign requesting different news outlets, media outlets to adopt Guardian language and change the way they speak about animals. And we recently closed that alert out. And we delivered a letter signed by over 12,000 In Defense of Animals supporters to The Guardian, the Associated Press, Netflix, and National Geographic, asking these large organizations to update their language to refer to animals as beings, not as objects. So Campaigns Director Lisa Levinson actually delivered signatures in person to the Associated Press office in LA, and Communications Director Fleur Dawes delivered signatures in person to The Guardian in their London office. We have a really great video to share with you in a minute of those deliveries. And as we grow this campaign and continue it, we're looking for other places to send our Guardian letter to and to share our Guardian campaign with. So you as individuals, when you encounter other news outlets, media sources, businesses, vet clinics, anywhere that is using words like it or owner, referring to animals not as he, she, or they, we really encourage you to start up a respectful conversation, but also you're welcome to send that information to us and we can provide some emails for you at the end of this. But I believe the email is guardian@idausa.org, and we're going to be expanding this campaign. So please do share with us places where you see a potential for other organizations adopting the Guardian language. So I think we have a video of that delivery.
Yes.
I don't
Let
know
me
if,
share the delivery. I will gladly share that, Katie.
and I don't know if you have anything to add either.
Yeah, well, I love what you said there about we're kind of updating this campaign, and we really want participation from everyone who is joining today. So we're so grateful that for your interest in this campaign. As we said, it is probably one of the most significant that we run, and one with one of the greatest potential to actually change the status of animals. So it's very important, and I know it may seem somewhat insignificant. It's like, well, we've got animals dying all the time. We are in an urgent situation. We're dealing with some very heartbreaking cases. But if we change the status of animals, hopefully we can stem that tide and not even get to that point where animals have been so desperately, horribly abused in the first place. And what I really was very glad to see, the day before I went into London to deliver the alert to The Guardian, the Guardian newspaper, for clarity, is that a friend of mine sent me an article about a dog who had been rescued from the top of a mountain. And when they'd shared this article, they'd actually referred to the dog as an it. And people were very upset in the comments. They'd written on the Facebook page saying, what a horrible way to refer to another being. And oh, you really shouldn't use it. Were they a he or a she? If you don't know, you can use they. So people are already having this conversation, and so it's out there. And I think we'll talk a little bit later about maybe your experiences of when you've heard some language that didn't sit quite right with you, or maybe some lovely language that you're adopting and using in your life now. But for now, I'm going to play that video with sound. Bear with me one moment whilst it loads up. And
Yeah, while it's loading, Fleur, I just think that's an excellent point. It's really, think about all these things that feel so immediate, that we're dealing with animals who are abused and neglected, needing help. And really, this campaign is just about getting to the root cause of that. Like you had said earlier, if we're shaping the way that children learn how to think about animals, and we're changing the way that we as adults know how to think and communicate about animals, we are actually getting at the root way of how we think about animals. And I think we have the potential to demolish a lot of the structures we've built up that create so much animal cruelty in the world that we have around us today.
absolutely, well said, Katie. Now let me share this video of us delivering this alert. Here we go.
I'm here at the Guardian's headquarters in London, and I have 12,000 signatures in my hands from kind In Defence of Animals supporters who want the Guardian and other major media outlets to respect animals as sentient beings.
I'm standing here outside the Associated Press office in Los Angeles to deliver these petitions signed by 12,000 IDA supporters just like you in support of Guardian Month.
Animals should never be referred to as an it, as an object. They are living, thinking, feeling beings.
This is an effort to encourage the Associated Press to change their style guides to refer to animals by their proper pronouns.
An animal should be a he, she, or a they.
And we hope that this will encourage people to think about sentience for animals.
And you can go to idausa.org/pledge to take the Guardian pledge this Guardian Month.
There we go. So that's just one of the ways that you can help out this Guardian Month, and we will move forwards later and share some more ideas on how to get involved.
Yeah, definitely. And I also just wanted to point out, we had a really great comment from Terry noticing the common use of the word that instead of who. And that's another thing we hadn't mentioned yet, and a very common one when you hear people referring to animals as that, makes them seem like objects instead of a who, a person, a somebody instead of a some, or they makes them sound like a something when you say that instead of a someone as they actually are. So very good point. Thank you for bringing that up, Terry. And yeah, so going forward, what you can do, the video hinted or showed a link that you can pledge at idausa.org/pledge. And that's just pledging to use the Guardian language yourself. You can share that pledge link with your veterinary clinic, your friends, your family, anyone really, to try to encourage them to adopt Guardian language. We, as I mentioned earlier, will be spreading this message to other media outlets and businesses. So if you see a place using it or owner or that, definitely either reach out to them or reach out to us, and we can send them a letter from our campaign. I don't know if anyone has anything to add.
I would like to add, one of our very impressive supporters who has spoken up would be Dr. Jane Goodall. So you probably know Dr. Jane Goodall. She's the world's most famous primatologist, easily. And she's a very, very firm supporter of our Guardian campaign, has been for a very long time. She she experienced an awful situation and she spoke out about it. Now, this was years ago. She published her first scientific paper in Nature magazine, or was it Science? It was one of the biggest journals. And every time that she had said she or he about the chimpanzees who she was observing, their editor had gone through and marked it out with a red pen and said it, that, which. And totally dehumanized them. And Dr. Goodall had a kind of a big fight on her hands, even though she was just a very young person starting out in her field. She fought for that to be for them to be humanized in that way, or what we now consider humanized, but really just given their personhood and respected for their personhood. And that's been one of her big fights for her entire life. And Dr. Jane Goodall was actually one of 80 eminent scientists and conservation leaders who have signed our letter to the AP Style Guide, which we have delivered also in addition to the 12,000 signatures from you, kind in defense of animal supporters. So this is a huge movement that we're building to get the AP Style Guide to change its language. And if you don't know what the AP Style Guide is, you may be thinking like, what's the point of following on the AP? The AP Style Guide is used by editors around the world. Probably if you work for any company or organization, there's a very, very good chance that in their communications they will be following the AP Style Guide. And unfortunately, the AP Style Guide, while it allows for animals to be called he or she, it also suggests that they should be called it as well, which is incorrect, we believe. And that's why we're calling on them to make a stylistic change that animals should always be referred to as he, she, or they. That's all I had to add on that, probably, Katie. I don't know if we now want to move into any question time or thoughts about how our language is evolving.
Yeah, definitely. I think it would be a good opportunity to open it up for engagement, unless any other campaigners have anything to add. I was also about to put, I put the link to our pledge in the chat, and was about to put a link to a blog we have, 10 things you can do for animals for Guardian Month. So that's another thing you can look at to see different ways you can have an impact. So I guess we kind of thought about opening the floor up to talk about times you've experienced, something, I guess, along the lines of what Jane Goodall experienced, a time when someone called your companion animal an it, or called you an owner and you were upset about it. Do you see ways that our language is evolving? And, have you noticed those changes in your own personal life, whether they're in yourself or in the way people around you refer to animals?
And for anybody who would like to speak up, all you need to do is ask to unmute.
I believe you can unmute yourself as well.
Oh, you can unmute yourself, lovely.
Using the icons at the bottom of the Zoom screen, you can unmute and then you can talk with us. That's one of the benefits of doing this meeting format, so we can see and hear each other.
This is Terry, and I notice all the time on Next Door Neighbor. Even when they know the gender of, let's say, a lost cat or dog, it comes up so frequently, and it raises my hackles. I get really irritated, and sometimes I just say it ? And then sometimes I don't say anything. Sometimes I elaborate further, but it's very irritating. And then sometimes I struggled with, I don't like the term owner. We don't own anybody, but the term guardian fits so perfectly. And I thank you for giving me that. Definitely.
Thank you, Terry.
What would you recommend? Is there a tactful way to point out when somebody uses really what I consider an offensive term?
Yeah, that can be really difficult, but I usually like to bridge it in a way where sometimes I'll kind of slyly, like actually just the other day, sent a photo of my rabbit napping in the sun to my partner's family group chat. And his mom responded by saying, "Oh, it's so cute. Just a version of our dog lounging in the sun." And, I first just kind of started by saying, yeah, she's really adorable. She really loves laying in her sunny spot, sort of thing, more subtly making that hint. But I think it depends on, who you're talking to and who you're engaging with. I had another experience at a vet recently. I recently moved, so I was transferring my animals and getting their paperwork. And so was reading over the paperwork and some of the notes from my vet previously. One of the sentences was like, "Owner has great husbandry." And I was just very offended by that because, husbandry is a word specifically for just caring for and cultivating animals almost.
Oh,
And
that's horrible. That is horrible.
yeah. And so in that situation, I think, because the text message was more of like, someone who's close family member, I used more of like a subtle correction. But in this case, have not yet, but was planning to do more of a, either calling them up and asking them formally to shift their language, or perhaps writing them a letter as someone whose animals have been seeing their vets there. So those are two different strategies that I've used.
And thank you so much for speaking up, Terry. Yes, sorry, go ahead.
I just came to mind Renee King, a Bratty Girl Sanctuary. You know her? She's a wonderful person. She refused to pay a Texas A&M medical bill for one of the for a cow, because they referred to her as what was it? A food animal. And she would not, and they go, "Well, we're sorry, we can't change our form just for you." And she says, "Fine, I'm not paying the bill." You know what? They found a way to change it. Yay, Renee.
Yes, good for Renee.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Can I speak? This is Kitty Kessler.
Hi, Kitty.
Go right ahead.
Hi, Kitty.
I think it was about 8 years ago. I called IDA when I saw your campaign starting to change the animal language in the animal ordinances of various municipalities. I live in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and I spoke to someone and I got a call back from Dr. Katz, from Elliot Katz, and he sent me materials, and he called me back every time I called, and he called to check on me, and he just guided me through the process. I do not do well on public speaking. I'm okay with a few people like this, but I can't stand up in front of a group. I just can't. I'm a swimmer, and I would always, just to show you how bad it is, put my seat time in a few seconds slower than I was going to be, so that I wouldn't be the last one in the pool with all eyes on me. But Elliot guided me, and I went to monthly meetings of the Fort Lauderdale City Commission, where I read off of my notes, which were very impassioned, and only one woman was very blasé about it, and it was beneath her. But the rest of them finally, after months and months, decided to have me come and speak at the open forum, God help me, of, for the city of Fort Lauderdale. And I went, and one of my neighbors went, and she spoke also, which made it a little easier for me, but not much. And at the end of it, whoever was the judge said, yes, you win. You can stop now. He saw how nervous I was. And he said, we're going to put that into the laws. We're going to codify it. Change to the language in the animal ordinances. I went home so happy, feeling so elated. I got up the next morning to a call from my neighbor who had been there, or someone from the commission, I'm not sure, but they had several phone calls from vets who said that was a bad idea, because if they got in a cat or a dog and the person listed themselves as the guardian, and then they said they wanted them put to sleep because they were very sick and suffering, they couldn't do it because they wouldn't feel they had the authority to order the cessation of life to something they are just a guardian to, not an owner of. And I don't even call myself an owner. As far as I'm concerned, I'm their mommy.
Quite right, Kitty. Oh, wow, that's such an inspiring story. And I'm so
It did
grateful
not
to you.
work out.
Well, it sounds like you really did make a big impact there, despite it not going in Fort Lauderdale. And certainly, I know that we are aware of pushback. It's shocking, but veterinarians are against the use of guardian language, or have been historically against the use of guardian language. I'm not super familiar with the reasons why. I hear that comment, but I'm absolutely certain that there's no reason that they can't update their language, and that they can't use that going forwards to it's very clear that if somebody calls themselves a guardian, that they have, I would say, even more responsibility than a mere owner over an animal in their care. So I think that's frankly a very poor excuse from the veterinary community, and very disappointing. And I'm sure that you and probably a lot of others on this call are animal guardians. So perhaps if we all kind of push with our veterinarians to update their language, then we can get this kind of swell from the bottom up, as well as working from the top down. But I think what you did was absolutely phenomenal, Kitty, especially your personal journey of overcoming.
I didn't overcome it. I still can't do it. It was just that one time that I did it. And the times when I went to the commission, because it was so important. And Elliot Katz was behind me, but I didn't get over it. I did try one time with the county of Broward, but they heard me out, but they didn't invite me to come again.
Well, maybe that's something that we could, yes.
I was just going to say that your comments are in the public record. So that's really important.
They are?
Yes.
Mine were very long. There were a couple of pages sometimes typewritten.
They're in the public record. They're part of history now because you did that. Thanks for doing that.
But it's still not done. It still remains undone.
It's one step. That's what we have to remind ourselves all the time as animal activists and advocates, is every step influences some people and their thoughts. And then that's how we create that ripple effect of making real lasting change.
Lately, I have done two things. One I succeeded in and one I couldn't because of timing. My husband passed away last July 15th. And by January or so, I had created the Mel and Kitty Kessler Foundation for Animals. And every year, IDA, along with 3 other organizations, will get a donation, a nice sized donation from the foundation.
Thank you so much, Kitty. That is an absolutely incredible gesture in honor of
What
your late
I
husband.
did was I picked IDA because I wanted to cover all bases. My first one that I picked was ALDF because I wanted things to go through the courts, get harsher penalties for abusers, and get more animal laws passed. My next one was IDA because I know your work, because I got to know Elliot Katz. And then the third one is AAVS because they single out the laboratories and they want to get all the animals out of them. Really, they zone in on it. And the last one was animal equity because they concentrate on the farmed animals. So I think I've covered just about all the bases with you four.
That's absolutely wonderful, Kitty. Thank you so much for doing that. That's such a really amazing tribute to your
The
husband.
thing I did not succeed at because of timing, and it still has me sick. I have spoken to Doll Stanley. I have spoken to Nicole, Otto, something.
Tupolik?
Yes, yes.
Autopolic.
Autopolic?
Autopolic, yes. And a couple of others, but if you remember, you sent out an email about 2 weeks ago about a cat named Ellie who was tortured and raped for months and then had her tongue and her lower jaw cut off, still alive, and then he threw her out the window. And my son is an attorney and he lives in South Jersey. And I asked him, he asked my trustee for the foundation, would he be willing to go as an amicus if he could get guidance from ALDF? And I tried to contact people at ALDF and found out that Stephen Wells is no longer with them just recently. And I don't know who took over for him. But what I wanted to do so badly, in addition to trying to help in any way I could, and by the way, ALDF finally did answer my emails and my fax, and they said they have been on this for a while already, and that what Doll Stanley told me was correct. The DA in Monmouth County, New Jersey, is prosecuting this personally because of the way she feels about this. This is such a nightmare. I haven't slept in weeks from that. And Doll also agreed with what I said in my email, that this guy, even if he gets the max, should be put in general population. And I hope some guys much bigger than he is take him apart the same way he did to that cat, because he'll never understand anything else. And he's not going to be cured and helped by psychiatrists because this guy is too depraved to be helped. He's going to go for little girls next, I think. But what I wanted for myself and for the cat, my husband and I originally bought tombs in a mortuary in New York. And then when we were told, or I learned, that I could not have my cat's ashes, and there are little urns, which are not contagious in any way, put into the box with me, I said, you know what? The hell with you guys. I'm going to be cremated. And I'm going to have their ashes mixed in with my ashes so they can never be separated. And my husband thought it was a good idea too. So when he passed away, there were 3 urns with cat's ashes in them on his night table. There are 4 on mine right now. And I brought those to the funeral home the day after he died. And I said, these go in with him when the ashes are cooled. And I want you to take out the little pictures that are glued into the urns and give them back to me separately. And I glued them on the back of his urn, which looks like a sarcophagus. We each had one, and we traveled back and forth as snowbirds for years. that way. We took the urns with us, and we took our urns with us because we never knew if we would die in the other place. And we always traveled by car because we had 4 or 5 cats, and sometimes 3 cats and a dog. So, you know, it was a rough trip, but we stopped doing it in 2016, and we stayed down here permanently. And I wanted to be able to pay for a private cremation for that cat, Ellie, and her ashes flown at my expense to me. And I intended to take one of the 3 urns that was no longer in use, but I have the urns, and put her ashes in there and put her next to my beloved cats on my night table, and then in with me. And my reasoning for this, it may sound silly, but to me, it seemed like the right thing to do, because she was not valued during her life. She was just something for him to use and abuse and torture and really abuse her. I wanted, if there is a God, then I wanted her spirit to know that she was with someone who came to love her and valued her, even if too late, and that she would never, her ashes, remains of her would never be alone again. And I couldn't do it because she had already been cremated and disposed of, and I don't know how. But it occurred to me that when these horrible, horrible things, and you know, the owner is not going to give a damn what happens to them, and that hopefully the owner's going to go to jail, that maybe you could start some kind of campaign that lets them hold the body. They had to hold her for a while to do a necropsy and get the evidence they needed. I was hoping I'd catch it before they finished with her remains and cremated her, but I didn't, because I find out too late. It was done weeks ago. And if maybe IDA could somehow start a campaign for all these animals. I'm sure there are other people out there who love them like I do, who would say, I'll take their ashes. I'll be their guardian of their ashes and their spirit.
Kitty, I think that's an incredibly touching idea. And I just want to say that, you know, your story of how you've been traveling with your cats, both in life and after they've passed over, has just touched me very deeply. I think it's really beautiful what you've done, and all that you did for the poor cat who we've been campaigning for. It's really incredible. And certainly, unfortunately, we do work on some very dark cases, and the animals don't always survive. So that could well be something that we could look into. So thank you for that very, very touching suggestion. And it does remind me, actually, you've been talking a lot about, you know, the kind of sadder side of things. But as an animal guardians, a very important part of being a responsible guardian is planning for your animal after you die.
I have.
Oh, fantastic. That's absolutely wonderful. I don't know if
my son, the one who's a lawyer, that's my 3rd child, has offered to take them both of my cats. I have 2 cats, Seal Point Siamese that I adopted at Petco. And he's offered to take them both. My other son would take one of them. My daughter, I have no lack of people. The problem is with my little Chihuahua, Cielo. She was named Cielo because it means heaven in Spanish. And she was found in the middle of a busy street in Hialeah, Florida, with trucks roaring by. Someone had thrown her out of a window or something, because we had to have surgery on her rear, like her knee area. I think you call it a hock. And she was limping, and she was like a deer in the headlights when you picked her up. Nobody had ever held her before. She was obviously a puppy mill breeder, because her nipples were down to her feet.
Oh.
And it took over a year and a half before they came up again. She had so many litters, and she must have just had a litter. That's what the vet said, who saw her. and bad food because she had hardly any teeth left. And she can't bark because she's been debarked, because these are illegal puppy mills that they're operating. And that's why her last ride was not to a shelter to be euthanized. It was just out the window in the middle of the road to her death. If she didn't die from hitting something on her head, there were trucks going by, two-way traffic. And
That's
somebody
horrendous.
reported it. So when I adopted her, I said, I'm going to name her Cielo, because she's lived her more than half her life in doggy hell. I want her to live up to her name and think she's in doggy heaven. And as long as my husband was alive, she surely did. She just latched onto him like he was the sun and moon to her. And she helped him too. My son gave me a t-shirt that said, "Who rescued whom?" with a picture of her.
Oh.
Her photo made onto a t-shirt. And now I have her, and I can't even let her sleep with me. She slept with me last night because we had a lot of lightning and thunder. But I was letting her sleep with me, but she can't be house trained. I took her a behaviorist. I had trainers here. It can't be done because she was used to living in a wire cage and having somebody else's excrements and bodily fluids raining down on her, and she didn't get out to get cleaned. Probably 8 years of life. We think she's about 17 now. I've had her 9 years. July 8th will be 9 years. And she cannot be trained. She cannot be rehomed because somebody will turn around and beat her or burn her or do something bad to her, no matter how cute and sweet she is, which she is. And she can't even go out of this house. This is the only home she's ever known. And
wow, that's really tricky, Kitty.
yeah,
I wonder
so
if,
I told my kids, and they understand, it's not easy, but she has mitral valve disease, and she is on vet medicine for 3.5 years. But 4 months ago, I have an appointment for the end of June with her a little early because I want to make sure that she's still doing okay, that her heart was functioning less, finally started to malfunction more. Before it was just a murmur, and they could see it, that she had the mitral valve disease, but it was contained by vet medicine twice a day, the pills. But now they're telling me that I may have to put her on Lasix, which I really can't do because she knows no boundaries as far as where she will go. I mean, now I have to keep her in a big playpen, 9 feet by 3 feet in my bedroom, near my bed. And I give her treats all day and all night if she pees on the wee-wee pad, which she does, but she'll poop on the floor in there. And she'll do it in my bed too.
oh no.
So
Oh, Kitty, I can see that's really,
what
really,
they're
really
going to
difficult.
do is they're going to euthanize her if I die first and put her ashes in with mine. Because she's
Oh,
17 years
yeah.
old now, and
Wow.
I don't know how much longer she has, but I'm 80, so I don't know how long I have. So it's touch and go who goes first. But either way, her ashes are going in with mine and my other cats. And if these two outlive me, fine. If not, they'll go in there too. There's plenty of room.
Well, I think it's absolutely wonderful that you've thought everything through and you've got such a great, you've got a plan for each of your animals, which is unfortunately gets forgotten a lot. More than you would think, sadly.
I can't believe, it's so hard to believe.
Yeah, it is hard to believe, but it's one of those things. And of course, some people, nobody knows when they're going to go. So I actually very recently made my will. We have this fantastic new tool. It's called Free Will, FREEWILL .com/IDA. So freewill.com/IDA. And if you are a resident in California, you can actually make a living trust. for the animals who
I
you are a
don't need
guardian
one
of.
because I'll leave my kids enough that they can take care of the cats. And
Well, that's
the dog will go with me. That's in my
absolutely
will.
perfect, Kitty.
And
That's wonderful. And
the funeral parlor went right along with it, no problem.
that's
Because
great. I'm
it
so
was in
glad you've
my
got such support around. I just want to, I guess, open it out to everyone else to let you know that yes, we do have that planning tool that you can use, and you can, of course, would be very grateful if you would. It's free to use. There's no obligation, but you do also have the option to include a gift to In Defense of Animals in your will. That's one of our major sources of funding. We don't receive any government funding. So if you do leave us in your will, it basically makes up a large portion of we're here thanks to kind people who have left us in their wills.
You
There's
hear
also
from me a lot of times, sometimes in the middle of the year, sometimes, towards the end, but at the end of the year now, every year you'll be getting, along with the other 3 organizations, something from my foundation. It's going to be self-perpetuating, so I'm not worried, and my kids are going to take it over for me as trustees. And it's going to go on. It's a 503c3. So it's a charitable fund. So there's no tax to
arts, Kitty. Thank you so much.
I had a small IRA. My husband had a larger one because he was heavily invested in stocks and things. So I have to take, being at my age, I have to take a required minimum distribution from my IRA every year, the end of the year. And last year, I used the most I could use, which was quite a bit. And IDA got a check, ALDF got a check, AAVS got a check from that also, and Animal Equity and Best Friends and a few others, the Paws of Honor for vets, dogs. I'm trying to cover all bases, but
thank you, Kitty.
some of
That's
these are
very,
getting
very
addition
kind.
at the IRA distribution.
Oh.
These are in the thousands, so and it will continue.
Very gratefully received. Thank you. We really, really do appreciate that, Kitty. And for everyone here on this call today who has donated anything at all to In Defense of Animals, we are incredibly grateful to all of you. We would not be here, we would not be fighting for animals every waking hour if it weren't for you. So from the bottom of our hearts, thank you.
Well, God bless you all for the work you do.
Thank you so much, Kitty. Thank you, Kitty. We wouldn't be here without you. So I guess we're coming towards the end of our session now. I don't know, Katie, if you want to go over any of the other talking points that we had decided to discuss. We've had some fantastic discussions, so thank you everyone who's made comments so far.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Fleur. Just kind of to wrap us up, I think a few more things we can talk about quickly are in this 10 Things You Can Do for Animals Guardian Month blog. And part of the Guardian campaign is not only changing our language, but being a responsible guardian. And I think a lot of the people who have joined us here today, probably everyone who's joined us here today is a responsible guardian, but our blog gives some helpful tips. So things like adopt, don't shop, using non-toxic cleaning products, that kind of stuff. And then Fleur also touched on our legacy planning, leaving IDA in your will. And then we kind of had this discussion about, have you ever heard anyone call your animal an it or call an animal an it? And I guess something we also wanted to mention was we can think of the golden rule, do unto others as you'd like them to do to you. So this applies to all animals, not just humans. You wouldn't call a human an it. So it's a great way of thinking about that. So because you wouldn't call a human an it, why would we call an animal an it? guess I'll end my little spiel by just saying, I know we talked about a few dark, sad things in this meeting, but part of the Guardian campaign is to stop those issues in their tracks. If we change the way we think about animals and speak about animals, we will ultimately change the way that we treat animals. And that is the goal to keep in mind. And when we hear these horrible, sad things, this is one way that I think we can all really do something to make the world a better place for animals by changing the way we talk about them.
Yes, we can. Thank you so much, Katie and Fleur. Did you want to say anything else? Mm-hmm.
I'd just like to, thank again everyone for taking time to join us this afternoon and this evening for me, depending on your time zone, where the moon and the sun are, and for everyone who has contributed to the Guardian campaign over the years. It was really nice to hear about, your interactions with Dr. Katz, who really felt this was such an important campaign. So I'm very grateful to my colleagues for taking this forward, and to the people like Terry who have spoken up in their local municipalities to make this a reality, and for everyone who wants to bring that forward when they go to their veterinarian, or if you see it on Nextdoor, or you hear somebody calling an animal in it, however you feel moved to bring that up, and kindly and politely correct them. Of course, it's very much appreciated, and you are making a difference for animals every time you do that. So thank you, everyone. And Lisa, maybe you would like to
say something to Katie, because Katie said she put it on the blog that you should do unto others as you would want them to do unto you. And a clergyman once corrected me in that and said, it would be better if you say, do not do unto others what you would not want done unto you. And it seems to make sense to me, because if you want $1 million, you're going to give somebody $1 million so they give it back to you. But if you say, don't do this to me because it hurts physically, emotionally, whatever, and I wouldn't do it to you.
Yeah, thank you, Kitty. And I think another way I've been taught about that idea is just treat others the way you'd like to be treated. But I think that's a great way of thinking of it in the negative. I know we're about out of time now, but Lisa, do you have anything to say to wrap us up?
Yes, I would like to thank everyone for joining us. My cat Munchie has stopped by to also thank everybody and say that she enjoyed this really lively conversation with everyone today. And we hope that you can join us again for our next Fireside Chat. Stay tuned for more about what that is, and we will send you a replay link about this one, so you can listen to it. And if you have any other questions, you can reach out to Katie at katie@idausa.org. Thanks to everyone for joining us. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And thank you for taking the Guardian Pledge and being part of this really important campaign to change the way we think and speak about animals. Take care, everyone.
Thank you all.